Good day, YouTubers, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all around the world. We're planking, more planking. I just noticed this corner broke off before I got a chance to cut it off. We'll have to fix that. That one board that's up there on the very edge was warped, so I used it to fit that curve. So what else have I been doing this week? A shocking revelation of different colors of spray paint come together to redo that Rooster. And we got that at the Florida Flywheel event, but it was all beat up and bent, and the paint job on it was really bad. So we straightened it out here and there, and we fixed that there and there, and then masked it off. And took us like 3 days to get it painted because we had to let certain areas dry before we could mask a second area. And then last week I did that little Rooster, and it was all rusty, sitting in the yard for years. So I scraped all the bad paint off of it and the rust and stuff, and then redid it, and then put a clear coat on it. What else is new? Well, vegetables, herbs and spices. See how the chickens are doing today. Got my rain barrel set up. I'm gonna have to get a gutter on the roof to feed it. One, two, three, four, five. Morning. Did we lay any eggs? Notice one of them Rhode Island red chickens is laying in the corner. Yep, look at that. Put an egg in the corner. And there's none in there yet. Y'all better get busy. I gave him some leftover macaroni salad this morning. There's a little bit left. They ate most of it. My sweet potatoes are growing like crazy. Okra's coming back. So I'm gonna set up the camera for filming this. Uh-oh, somebody's talking to me. Filming this planking in the closed caption. It goes fairly quick, but I don't want to have to torture you guys in real time. Okay, we got all the way around the outside of the hull. And now I just finished doing this inside up on the upper area that's camera seeing here. I'm trying to get the glue all the way down without getting it on the deck, and it'll be a liberal amount. Until we get out here on the end. This is going to go really quick. Don't forget the glue on there. Now out here on the end is a little tricky. Similar to doing the outside of the hull. I had one spot when I got to where I was closing up the last opening, and I had to cut a sliver in there off of this board, so you can see that the sliver was pointed on one end and probably 2 or 3 millimeters on the other. So that ended up working out pretty good. Now I got some glue in that corner there. See if we can scrape that out. Now all these boards that are over here have a warp to them, except the one I cut. So I'm saving those for where I may need the warp. I don't want to try to use them where it's straight here. So there was a few that were warped, but that's sort of expected. There's that glue on my finger. Why I'm using the tweezers on the other end, because you go sticking your fat finger in there and you'll get glue on the good face of the wood. And actually this pieces that we're working with here are the last in the bundle. So we had just enough. I wonder how they calculated that. Hope we don't need some somewhere else. I probably got a little bit left over from some of the other ship builds. Now that one's not taken on that edge there. There's probably no glue. Okay. We didn't go all the way out to the end. That should be enough, I think. So once this dries later on, we'll I think the next thing in the plans was marking up where the gun ports go. So you can see that one there, it's got a nice bow to it. Yeah, it's warped. It's not straight. And that would work great on the top here, but I need a straight edge on the bottom. So for now we'll just stick with a straight piece. Finish this out with some little pieces like we got over here. And then maybe just a little teeny piece. See, that one's not even straight either, is it? Just a little teeny piece there. I found that one that broke off. Oh, yeah, it was over here. It was laying on the rag. So I'm going to cut a little teeny piece. It's almost too short. If it's too much hanging out everywhere, it's going to be harder to get it to set without falling off. And I got to get a little bit on the edge of this one. See if it's long enough there. Okay. So we'll boot up the laptop and see where these gun ports go and get some measurements and start laying out while this is drying. And before I do any marking on here for the gun ports, I'm going to have to carefully trim all these tails that are hanging out everywhere, because if I don't, I'll end up popping something, while I'm working on this. I'll break something off and it'll be up in the area that I don't want it to break off. So I'm going to have to very carefully trim these. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. The Dremel would be easy and great to do it with that, but I think I'm going to get tear out because this wood is so thin. So even the X-Acto knife is going to, make chipping and tear out and stuff happen while you're pushing on it and cutting on it. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I got to figure out a way to cut these off very carefully. So I picked this spot back there for that big rooster. Maybe you stop and think about how you're going to do something. Sometimes a good idea comes along and says, whoa, that ought to work. Let's try that. See, there's a little tear out there. So we only want to cut one board at a time and not 1.5 or half. That'll eliminate the chance of tear out. Other than I'm shooting these pieces all over the shed here. It's definitely a way to get them off. It's very satisfying. Okay, so we dug out our Gunport door frames and hatches and did some preliminary measurements, and we used the plans on the CD to get more measurements to locate the Gunport openings. There's a few measurements that are missing, but if you shrink this or enlarge it to 200% and then use a ruler on the screen, you can get a pretty accurate scale. At 200%, these numbers pretty much match up, but they're not telling you how far away from the edge to start the opening on both the upper and the lower. And of course you want to be, with your opening, you want to be above the deck a little bit, and the ones down on the middle deck were too close to the deck, so I raised them up a couple millimeters. So we got the Gunport openings laid out and marked, ready for cut, and I went ahead and took sanded the cutaway up really good, and then took some lacquer and I gave it a good thick coat all over the inside and the outside and the decks. And I just got it sitting on some parchment paper, something to raise it up off of there while it dries. So once that dries, we'll have less chance of chip out on this face here when we go to start cutting those openings. I was able to get all that trimming done and sand it up pretty nicely, but we got to wait for this to dry now at least a day before I can rip into it and start cutting these Gunport openings. So patience is the name of the game sometimes. I only see 6 cannons. No, there's 8. There's 8 there. Another thing I noticed was the upper 2 Gunport doors don't have a hatch on them, and the lower 2 do have a hatch. So that's one thing that you got to watch out for. Thanks for watching.